So if we shift gears a little bit and look to 2020 and beyond, the next several years,
Yeah.
you have a very exciting initiative that's recently started up in collaboration with Vietnam. Can you talk a little bit more about what's happening there and what you're hoping to achieve?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one, and it's pointing toward African swine fever. So this is a situation where the Swine Health Information Center, I said non-regulatory diseases, but also filling in the gaps in what we need to have happen in any area, trying to be quick enough to address those types of things. African swine fever is going to be a regulatory disease, but there's a gap in our knowledge. And again, it's similar to PED in that if we get African swine fever, we want to know those lessons that we need to know without having to wait in order to be able to respond. So September of last year, with the help of the National Pork Producers Council, the center got a grant from the Foreign Ag Service, and that was to do two things. One, what's termed capacity building in Vietnam, which is really an educational program. Workshops, online training systems, those types of things, to give them information, give the Vietnamese information about African swine fever to help them respond. That's one part. The second part is the part that I'm excited about, and that is the projects that are going to be happening on the farms in Vietnam to help us and help them learn the lessons about how to manage and how to respond. So for example, one of the things that happens when you clean up a building with ASF is you can disinfect the building and you have disinfected it well, but the PCR, the test that you do for the ASF virus, still turns up positive. So that test doesn't tell you if it's a dead virus or a live virus, it just finds a piece of the virus. One of the things that we want to do, just one of them, is to try to figure out how we can disinfect and neutralize the virus so we get a negative
Cleaner
PCR.
test results.
So we know that when it's neutralized, we know that when it's clean, that it's gone and have a negative PCR. We're going to look at baking time for trailers, those types of things. We'll look at composting, and we'll look at the virus in manure pits. One of the big things that we're going to do also is working with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and USDA, test oral fluids as a surveillance mechanism for ASF. Right now, the only way that we have approved by USDA or Canada for testing for African swine fever in live pigs is to pull whole blood and test whole blood. And that is going to be difficult because you've got to make sure that it's not clotted. You've got to handle individual animals. All of those things, there's logistics issues with that. We're going to have to do it if we get ASF now. But if we can look toward oral fluids as a way to do surveillance, that will be so much easier for the producers. It will be so much more efficient and so much more cost effective that that we're looking forward to working with them on that. So as a farm breaks with ASF, for example, in Vietnam, we'll be out on that farm collecting oral fluids from the farm, from each of the pens, and doing tests on those oral fluids to ensure that we can find it as soon as it gets there. So those are some of the things, just some of the lessons that we're trying to learn before ASF gets here by collaborating and cooperating with folks in Vietnam.
So what final advice do you have for producers and veterinarians as they think about emerging and transboundary diseases, as far as take-home messages?
Yeah, really the take-home message is don't be complacent and don't assume you know what you have. Always get professional help because making an assumption will leave whatever it is out there longer. And with African swine fever or any emerging disease, if we get professional help, find out what's going on, and that's one of the things that the center offers too. If producers get into a dead end, or their veterinarian says, yeah, that diagnostic lab report says this is what it is, but I don't believe it, because that happens in practice. You say, yeah, that's what it says, but there's something different going on there. The center offers help in further diagnostics. We don't want to let things drop. We don't want to give an opportunity for an emerging disease to happen simply because somebody didn't have funds to continue on with looking. So don't be complacent and be inquisitive and don't take for granted and don't ever assume. Get professional help with all things that have to do with those pigs, because we're here to help and try to figure out what's going on.